have some visitors. Does anybody want to introduce themselves?
I'm David Stange, Tanner and Matt. We're from Nashville. Well, he and I are from Nashville.
Welcome.
Come in, guys.
Anybody else? Okay, the next item is approval of the March minutes. We met in May, we just tried to figure this out, but we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't approve any minutes, and so now we're going to approve the March minutes. Do I have a motion? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the update on the hurricane storm damage reduction project, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, John. There's really no update. If you guys recall our last meeting, what we were planning to do was march forward to the TDC and then the BCC about developing a storm response plan, something a little bit more formalized. We went to the TDC, we obtained approval, we went to BCC, and they requested some additional detail on what this plan would include. In the last TDC meeting, I gave that detail. It's pretty simple. Basically, we're going to outline, what our public outreach activities are going to be. We would like to have a public meeting with a lot of the property owners that were involved with the HSDR project, just kind of discuss a few alternative forms of beach management, seek their input on how they like to see the beach managed, and then kind of get into detail of what they would like to see as far as response procedures and what we recommend. And then, as we discussed, moving forward with getting the DEP and the core permits, the reviews have all been completed, but we don't have those permits in hand. So should, this last hurricane, if that would have come over a little bit further to the west, we would be scrambling right now. We'd be scrambling for months and months before we even got that permit. But if we had that permit in hand, we could start putting together funding, we could start putting together a project implementation plan. So that's one of our highest recommendations. And then some other details, we'd like to survey the beach on not necessarily an annual basis, but maybe a semi-annual basis every couple years, just to assess, where are our problem areas, where are we seeing some accretion, erosion. That'll help better guide this management plan. So we're actually using data, not just visual observations and photos. And then finally, we'll document what our pre- and post-storm activities would be. So now Brian has some pretty good procedures. He goes out, takes photographs of all of the county beach accesses, documents all of the infrastructure that's out there. But we'd like to see a little bit more of a comprehensive plan so we get a better feel for the entire county beach, not just the county property, but the entire shoreline. So that's basically the plan. What's our plan? September 20th. We're going to be marching that forward to the BCC. But if y'all have any input, I'll be glad to hear it and march it forward. But that's where we're at. And I assume after the September 20th BCC meeting, we'll work probably within the month after that to set up this public workshop and start getting folks some opinion, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed we don't have any more storms this year, and should be pretty well prepared for next year.
Did you, sorry, did you explain the process we've already been through, where we've already had it approved by this committee, by TDC, and we went to the BCC, and they asked for more information?
Yep.
A more expanded outline of what we're talking about. And so that's what we're going back with on September 20th, where we expect them to say, hold a public workshop to take public input. So.
Do we have a copy of that expanded outline?
It's what I did is I prepared 2 or 3 slides for the last TDC meeting, and I've got 5 bullets: outreach activities, obtain permits, collect annual beach surveys, pre-storm and post-storm activities, and then maintaining the permits. So that's basically the outline. And at the meeting, I'm going to go into more detail. But
we'll email to all the committee members.
Yeah, we can do that.
Our presentation we're going to have to the BCC, so you can be aware of it. Like I say, it just expanded slightly on what we already had. As you know, the BCC, along with the HSDR project, wants to make sure that whatever we do moving forward is in concert with that. It being tabled and everything, so it's, you know, it's a little, I don't want to say hot, but they want to be very careful how they approach it. So this plan is what we call Plan B or Plan C, is the alternative to the.
So what are we gonna do on Plan A? Is there any, I mean, I know it's on the current table right now. Is there anything, movement or anything we're trying to?
No, the Gulffront, the affected Gulffront property owners spoke with their no construction easement in return. They answered no on it, and so the county has it shelved. They didn't want to completely abandon it in the event that we did have an event this year or next year. So right now it's what you call on the shelf. And
So what if we have a storm, and of course we need to do this Plan B, and, you know, repair any damage from the storm, which, you know, it's not really substantial repairs, it's emergency repairs,
Right.
it's not like a beach conversion. But if we do have that storm and it is likely to change some opinions, would we then maybe try to move forward or revisit the Plan A?
Well, that'd be a decision for the county commissioners to make.
I think, you know, the property owners may have a different opinion.
They may. Like I said, we as a committee have expressed our, what we, think is the right thing to do. First, it was support of the HSDR project. Second, it was support of Plan B or Plan C, which is emergency repairs, documentation of what we have. And the TDC, the actual council, has also supported both of those measures. And so now it truly is in the hands of the BCC what they would make a final decision on. And I'm sure the Gulffront property owners came and said, hey, we have rethought it and we would like to participate in that. How do we sign the construction easements? I'm sure they're probably in favor of.
I don't think, that's probably not something that the property owners are going to initiate. That's probably something that we have to.
May or may not, it's just hard to say. Once again, depends on what kind of storm we get. We get Cat 3 that hits.
Exactly, and most of the newer, most people that live here haven't even been here 10 years since the last storms, and those storms weren't bad.
Right.
Pensacola got it pretty bad from Ivan, but they were just real minor storms here.
Yep.
And if we get another opal, it's going to really impact us for a long time.
Well, and John, I think this is the storm response plan we're talking about is not going to give details of, okay, here's the process 1, 2, 3 for a dune enhancement. It's just going to touch on each one of those items. And one of the big recommendations I see from here is following a major storm event, we do have that public meeting, and then we do pull the permits out and we say, okay, folks, where do we go from here? Then we make the assessment of what stretches, because we may see the west side is perfectly fine and the east side's eroded or vice versa. And we'll make that call then. But that's kind of what the plan would outline, is just those pre and post storm procedures, not going into the detail of what's the nourishment going to include, what's it going to cost, because we don't know. Until we have the storm and see what the damage is, we don't know. But this is just going to provide us that outline.
Another thing we've done under Beach Ops and one of our capital improvement projects, which is what I call a facelift to the beach accesses. We are doing new deck boards, new handrails on about half of the beach accesses this year. I have the other half set up for 2017 fiscal budget. And part of that is surveying and title work on all of the beach accesses. So we'll have current documentation of what's there, what our property boundaries are, so in the event that, like during Dennis, you were heavily involved in the engineering of Dennis, weren't you? What your firm did? Oh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in Dennis, we lost a lot of them, and we had some designs there, but apparently we didn't do surveys. I'm not sure why, or some of them had surveys, some of them didn't. But now we have all that documentation. So if we got to build them back, we have all that. The new design shouldn't take very long. Permitting shouldn't take very long. And the permit he's talking about is actual beach, restoration permit. So we hope to get to a position where we have an event, we're prepared, we know what we have, and we have, a quick plan to build it back so we can,
It's just, to me, thinking, trucking in the sand from, across the bay or, Sykes Pit or something it's just very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And pumping it in from the beach is, way more cost effective, so if somehow during that Plan B process, we could transition into the Plan A.
Yeah.
If the property, owners approved of it. Better than spending, a couple $100 million on, restoration, then turn around, everybody says, well, let's do the Plan A, and, we're back to spending a bunch of money on that.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of that depends on what size of storm we get in here and how much damage it does.
Yeah.
There's still the issue of customary use that's being looked at by hired legal counsel. We have the couple of lawsuits that are associated with the ordinance or the Chapter 22, Section 2255, obstructions on the beach, where we amended the ordinance or the code 3 or 4 months ago, or in July, when it became effective. That is the one that prohibits signs or posts, ropes, fences on the beach anytime. We received 2 lawsuits against that, so that all that will play together as to what the BCC decides they want to do ultimately. But we as consultant and advisory committee, I think, have made it clear that what we think is the right approach, and we've moved that forward. And so step back one time, and now it's going back again. Hopefully BCC and through the public workshop will come to the same conclusion we have, that let's prepare ourselves. That's where we are.
Are we coordinating this with Public Works at all? Because, after a storm, you can't even get to the beach. There's so much debris everywhere.
Yeah, through our emergency management response, all of our departments are tied together.
Yeah.
We, the Beach Operations Department and the TDC have a completely detailed outlined emergency response plan that we implement as soon as an emergency is declared. And along with that, EOC has their county-wide plan, and so all of our plans dovetail into that plan. So we all have roles, we all have things we got to do before, when the storm's out there in the Gulf. We prepare for it as soon as it is declared an emergency, depending on the evacuation schedule. We get everything in position, and as soon as we can get back in, of course the way in is across 331 Bridge. So as long as it doesn't get the approaches get knocked out, everybody can get back in pretty much. But like for us, we get all of our stuff. We got a big box full of equipment, supplies that'll last us 4 days. We fuel all of our trucks. We strategically locate them somewhere else. And all of our guys have assignments of what they're supposed to do as soon as they get the call to come back. And first part's assessment, second part's immediate cleanup, and then stabilize what's left, and then start rebuilding. Public Works has a very similar plan. So this past little event we had was a good exercise, because we our plan, we actually removed all of the garbage collection stations, all the signage off the beach on Thursday, and put it all back on Friday.
Really?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It was good. Like I say, me and Josh had a good learning lesson on things we can do better, but the best thing was that we realized that it could be done.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Very good.
Getting away from hurricane for just a second. Question, I was reading somebody's post on Facebook, better South Walton or something. And it's talking about not having to do with storms or anything, but flood mitigation for, due to rising tides, rising ocean levels. I'm wondering if that something that could enhance or whatever our plan A or plan B for beach reimbursement. Some money money sitting out there somewhere to address those kind of problems on coastal areas.
It's, well, the original HSDR project did take into account sea level rise. Anything that the Corps of Engineers does, or even the federal government, they're required to do specific assessments on, because it's a 50-year term project. How do we assess sea level rise over that 50 years, and how do we design the project to account for that? So that was done. I think the problem that most of those folks are discussing is more of a stormwater issue, because I don't see sea level rise posing a huge threat to the majority of Walton County. There are some low-lying areas. I think the biggest problem is stormwater and getting the water where it needs to go fast enough. So.
With that original post, did you read Goldberg's, the EOC manager's response to that? He added to that what they're doing as a county level involved with the state program. So there is some consideration for what Jackie Martell posted in regards to sea level rise and how it will affect Walton County. So if you get a chance to go back and read it. I didn't read through the whole thing, but once I saw that Goldberg had already been involved with the state on that particular problem, I knew we were in good hands.
My hope is that somehow will help convince the 90% of the homeowners on the beach to, some fraction thereof to change their minds. Get that off the table.
Yeah, it could.
And do those things.
Yeah. Go back and read that post again if you can get back to it and read Goldberg's response. He had some links to the different state programs that he's involved in regards to that.
Just a point of clarification. 90% of beachfront owners did not vote. No. It was 43% responded. In the closest questions, the BCC said, well, did 90% vote no? Well, actually, no. Most of the people did not respond, so no response was a no.
But they set it up that way. Going into sending out the request for consideration in signing the easement, they said that if you don't respond, it would be considered a no. So it wasn't like that there's 50% of the people out there that don't care. If that was their way of saying no.
Well, thanks for that, Brian.
We should have worded that different.
Well, we had several meetings. You remember they started in here. There was a lot of discussion about that construction easement. We had two versions. Version for the west end that had been previously merged as ACL, and then the east end. And then the meetings carried over to the South Walton Annex. We must have had 8 meetings on just the verbiage of the construction easement. And in the end, of course, the meetings basically consisted of the county having to give up language in there and threaten with a lawsuit every meeting. And in the end, I think part of it is the opposition's lawyers said that you can't demand people send this back, yes or no, so a no or no sending back would be considered a no. And that's how we got there. Yeah. It's like you send it to me, but you can't force me to send it back.
But I think it provides considerable rhetoric. My company, famous local guy, was in the paper about a week ago saying 9% of beachfront owners voted no. No, they didn't.
Yeah. So I think, referring to the way it was set up, it would be, accurate. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, moving on to new business. Trash collection in Great Beach State Park.
Yes, sir, thank you. So my neighbor happens to be the state park ranger. And he says, what's the process for trash collection? I said, I don't know, but I will ask. So Brian, I think he did not want his trash collected.
You're talking about Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do not collect trash on Great Beach State Park or Deer Lake State Park.
Okay.
Because Matt is in charge of both of those. And he has a ideology that if you don't put trash collection stations on the beach, people will remove their trash from the
That's
beach.
what he said.
So he's requested that we not worry about his two parks, because he's in charge of Deer Lake as well. And of course, you have two parts of Graydon. You got Graydon Beach State Park proper, and you got the cabins, to the west. They have a pretty good stretch of beach out in front of them. So we don't put out garbage collection stations, and we don't collect garbage from them. And then I'm not sure how much garbage they generate there, but Graydon Beach State Park is a pretty popular place during summer. If you've ever been in their parking lot, it's pretty much filled up by 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. and it stays filled up the whole day. So yeah, that's the story on that.
Thank you.
We've offered, and we have a standing
That's
offer
what he said.
to do
And I
that.
said, why wouldn't you want that?
Like I say, he has a different ideology on it.
Well, he lives down the street, so I'll go tell him.
Yep, right, he knows, we discussed it many times. Okay.
Okay, moving on, bringing technology to South Walton beaches.
Good morning, fellas.
See you guys. Morning. Where's this? I'll stand right, I can stand right over here. This will work. No, you're good. For, hey, you've heard this, I'm not here.
What's your call?
I'd like to put in a formal request that for our voting structure, instead of no answer means no, we prefer all no's to be just a standing back flip. And any non-backflip is yes for Beachy. Let's see if this works. And we'll keep it short and sweet. Beachy is a on-demand delivery technology that's we're based out of Nashville. We have an employee here, Tanner, that lives here. David has been a resident of Walton County.
Well, I was born in Sandestin Hilton. That's how I know.
He was actually born in the hotel. I was born in Fort Walton Beach, so I'm not South Walton.
Remember that?
But his father, Mike Stange, has been around here for a long time. Hopefully some of you know him. This entire technology that we've developed is based off of the consumer pain points he had and that I had when we were coming to the beach with our families and some of the things that happen on resorts and in public beaches. When we really hammered down to why are we having problems, why don't we send our wife down to the beach? Is she having an issue getting beach chairs? Why is there not better service on some of these resorts on the beach? We hammered it down to the fact that there's a lack of technology once you hit the sand. So why in this day and age would there be an industry with so many consumers and such a great consumer that you're targeting that lacks technology? So really we got that to the point where all of our different viewpoints aligned into the fact that you cannot locate and track consumers on the beach because they don't have a physical address, which is a pretty huge thing to grasp. But if you try to order something to your house, you give them your home address. If you try to order something from the beach, you can't do that. So, can you see all that? This has caused the entire ecosystem of the beach to be disconnected. And for the purpose of this meeting, there's really two disconnects we want to talk about in that ecosystem. One being a disconnect between the municipality, you guys, and the beachfront vendors. So what's going on there? How many, there's some vendors you guys have that are big, that are paying their employee taxes, that have insurance, and these are the guys that we really want to help out. And there's some vendors we've talked to that are, a pharmacist who drops off 6 chairs on the way to work and picks them up on the way home, and he does cash only, and he'll tell you on the phone, I just do cash, and I don't tell anybody about it. And first call we ever made to the guy, he told us this. So you guys have a wide range of vendors, from Rent Gear here and Live Well, who do really great work, and you got some other people who are purposefully stealing it. They'll tell you to your face. So, there's a disconnect in that particular part of the ecosystem, and then also between the vendors and the consumers and your vacationers. It's very hard. It's an archaic way that they communicate. So it's over the phone, through the website, things like that. Everything now, the consumer trends are really pushing towards mobile applications, all online booking, and we still want to have that customer service element. So we've addressed that. So what we have designed is a mobile platform. Trying to move this a little bit. that facilitates logistics and commerce between service providers and beachgoers. That's our nerdy way of saying we've really centralized this, funneled it all into one system, so all of that fragmented marketplace that you have out there can be organized, and you guys can keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on at the beach. And there's a little bit of an urgency to us now. We think this is a great time for you to do this because of the consumer trends, because you have such a fragmented marketplace out there. We get calls all the time from this area from people saying, when's it going to go live here? And they're usually talking about a public beach. They're usually talking about one of y'all's public beach accesses. The whole thing was started just to put this vision in your head on the idea of being able to, sorry, this isn't lined up perfectly for this. That's good. Of being able to book a beach set like you would an airline seat. Now, we all understand the industry here well enough that it's a little bit trickier than booking a beach set like you would an airline seat because it's not set up the exact same every day. So there's a lot of logistics that go into it with us. When we do this with a resort, we partner with them heavily. We really establish the arrays they put out. Now, if you can think of physical addresses on the sand from our mapping solution, you could think different people may want front row, other people may want to be you can enter where your address may be that you're staying. A lot of the vacationers, they don't know where the closest beach access is, and this would direct them to where they would need to go, and they can book an exact spot on the beach for the delivery vendors to now get this information. The beach management system, it would be a way for the county and also for the vendors to really streamline this workflow of the orders coming through. It allows for data capture, which right now is really lacking in all the beach transactions. Since there's so much cash, it's really hard for anyone to know what's going on. So the first part of our two-part solution, and I'll be quick, is our beach mapping. This is proprietary. We've patented it, not that you care, the investors do. This allows us to geolocate every spot on the beach. GPS is only specific to about 25 feet, so if I stood in the middle of this room and ordered something by GPS, whoever's delivery would have no idea who ordered, because we're all within 25 feet radius of that. So what we've done is we've designed a way on the beachfront to be more specific and assign specific spots to public beaches and all types of beaches at that. So just imagine the second a consumer arrives, they are able to go on the website, type in their address, pick if they want front row, which may or may not be different pricing. Dynamic pricing is an option. They can pick a front corner, they can pick front on the aisle, whatever they want, and then that we would put together a process to where they would be able to pick which vendor they wanted, or if you guys went down the road, it's really up to the county and what regulations you have. It's very different from Dade County and some of the other where they have selected one vendor per public beach. So here you guys have a little bit of different arrangement. We would streamline that workflow to where it would go to the person that would carry it out. And then obviously would not want to show favoritism, but this would allow for the data capture for the county to know. Now you really know this transaction came from this area, was carried out by this vendor, and you can set up an entire ecosystem of communication and reviews based off how that consumer enjoyed it. Oh, that's it. So, thank you. We really wanted this to be more conversational. That's why it's a little bit sporadic. We thought this was a roundtable discussion, but I'm going to sit down and we can fire questions back and forth, and we'll see where it goes from there.
What do you see as far as the advantages of taking on this technology for us?
So for the county, I really think the data capture is a huge play. I mean, if you were to take a guess at how much commerce actually takes place on the beachfront, and if we were to take a guess, it would be two very different numbers. It's a business that's very behind on how well it's tracked.
We're down in Dade County, working with a lot of those guys there. We see what they're doing on their beaches in terms of revenue. We've talked to a lot of guys here and what they claim is their revenue, and there's a huge difference. I mean, the same chairs, similar pricing. and Miami-Dade was managing this all on Excel spreadsheets. So what they were doing is, if you want to vend on this beach, that's fine, but the county takes 20% of the revenue. And that was what they put out. They did an audit after the second year, and one beach vendor in particular had shorted them $2.5 million. So that's a significant amount of money.
And their tracking is off an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
Updated and provided to them.
Yeah, they were using a shared Excel sheet that they were supposed to be putting all their receipts into, and so $2.5 million is just over 2 years. And that was one beach, and that was one vendor. So imagine if you take that and spread that out over the entire county. The beach chair business is a $3 billion business in the state of Florida. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and that's just chairs and umbrellas. Essentially what we're doing is bringing the convenience of staying at, Sandestin, or Tanner was the beach guy at Alice Beach, or Rosemary, whatever, and we're going to bring that to every single public access in Walton County. If you go down to the beach and you're at a public beach right now and you want a beer, or you want a cocktail, or you want food, right now, the only way you're going to go get that is to get out of your chair and go get it. That's not the case anymore. You can order anything you want directly to your beach chair. We've talking with Chan at Wine World. He certainly is open to it. He will even stage all the alcohol needs at the Wine World, and not to say watercolor, to do plastic bottles and everything else. You could literally order an entire Yeti cooler full of whatever you want, and we'll bring it directly to your beach chair. We don't care if you're a resident, or if you're not a resident, if you're just a guest. And that's kind of the point. I came up with the idea of Memorial Day last year, and just kind of realized it really is a pain in the ass to rent beach chairs. It's just not an easy process. And then I got to go find my chair, and I don't, it's just this whole system. And it's like, I need a map. Well, Google Maps will only take me to the end of the boardwalk, or to start the boardwalk, where I need that last 200 feet or 500 feet to my chair. And so we figured out a way to provide that last 500 feet and actually give you a map to the specific spot on the beach that you reserve. So I'll take it even a step further. Right now, the beach guys here can set up on 50% of the beach, and they have to leave 50% of the beach to the public. We already have all that mapped. And so we can show them exactly where they can set up and exactly where they can't set up. I know there's stuff out there that kind of tells them that, but now it's, they're doing it through technology and not just, like ropes that are on the beach. Same thing with the, they're waiting on a text message from the turtle lady before they can run out and set up. Now, all that is done through Beachy. They just get an alert on their phone. So everybody's alerted, instead of just this, this text message that's going back and forth. So.
And it would solve for that, in our head where we see, without ever having physically seen it, but from how it's described, it's like a bunch of athletic skinny kids are standing there holding their beach chairs ready to sprint. And then this magical text message comes in, and it's like, you better be ready, or you're not going to get front row. It's a little bit of an exaggeration possibly, but it's an archaic way to do things.
They're doing combine style tryouts, like measuring people's 40 speeds and their high jump.
And on top of all the things he said, once this consumer is in it, and we see them as consumers, once this vacationer is in their spot, and if they're sitting in this chair, they can then open their phone up, assuming they have service, and there's an entire consumer app to where now we can drive more sales to the beach vendors as well. When you sit there, half the time I'm sitting there, I'm next to my wife and she's reading, but I'm bored. So I'm going to want to order a paddleboard. I'm going to want to order a cooler of beer or something to entertain me, because otherwise I'm just going to have to sit there and read as well. So, there's a way that we use this to generate revenue for every party involved.
So you have an internet site?
What's that?
What is your internet site?
BeachyApp.com.
What's that?
BeachyApp.com.
BeachyApp.com. Do you have a card?
Yeah. We have a card there.
We'll push out some information to you, their contact information, all that, via the beach management distribution, the controllers, that'll get you a good start.
You pay us, or we pay you?
So the way this works is the consumer pays for everything. So we add a convenience fee to every transaction that is 1% of the total.
That's our usual arrangement with resorts. We'd have to explore. You guys have a pretty unique, the way your county does this is pretty unique. I mean, I think it would take a lot of discussion between finding that win-win solution for everyone, because I'm just not sure what it is yet.
Y'all collect the sales tax?
We do.
We collect the sales tax. We have the liabilities passed to the local vendor for that, but we do have the technology where they can enter that, or we can enter it for them. But you guys have a pretty dynamic taxing system here. And we don't take the liability there. I mean, even if it's not as bad as Pensacola where they SRIA and all this other stuff, but y'all changes from county to county and from city to city, and some of that stuff gets a little blurry to me when I get here from Nashville and I don't know my way around.
So are y'all vendors as well, or just coordinating with them?
No, we don't want to ever own a beach chair. We own one beach chair, and Sandestin gave it to us, so we could put our logo on it for marketing stuff. And that was the only beach chair I ever wanted. I started working on the beaches on my 14th birthday.
I didn't know if there was other avenues you all wanted to pursue. You're talking about the...
No, I was a beach boy from 14 to 22, and that's what I did in college and the summers, and I never want to carry another beach chair again, so I don't have to.
You put up Wi-Fi technology, or do you use?
We have a relationship with Verizon, and they put together a step-by-step process for it that's needed for them. Verizon is the strongest signal here. We know because we have T-Mobile and AT&T, and we never have signal. But we have we have consultants who can help with that, but no, we don't personally.
So I'm a little unclear. So as you're coming to the county, you're presenting this to the county in what regards? So you're talking about the public beach access.
Yes.
And you've already mentioned that you understand how difficult it is for I don't know if you understand how hot politics have gotten between the 50% rule, just on that one issue. So then you've already got that issue, and you're saying you've already anticipated and you can overcome that part, right? So you can reserve specific spots. How are you going to deal with the pushback from the public when they come out and they're competing? Because you're going to get a ton of pushback from that. So how are you going to reserve those spots so the people who are going to book it have that expectation, establish that relationship with that particular beach vendor, and then that particular beach vendor comes out and has its pushback from the locals and or other visitors who come down with their gypsy gear? How are you guys going to mitigate that?
The Illuminates.
The Illuminates is what we call it. So our understanding is that the Illuminates have their side and the vendors have their side. If an Illuminate, maybe we should use a different term, gypsy, we'll go with. If the gypsy sets up on the right side, which is established for the vendors, do the vendors have a right to then go to that gypsy and say, excuse me, I'm sorry, but the county has allocated this part for us?
That's actually incorrect.
They cannot?
No, the general public has a right to use 100% of the beach.
Okay.
Their vendors are restricted to 50% of the beach. And the reason is, it was an attempt to alleviate that race to the water's edge every morning. Vendors basically were, saving front, edge seats. In Walton County, everybody likes to have toes in the water.
Right.
Okaloosa County, they're a little more acceptable to second, third, fourth tier setup. It's getting that way in Walton County. Another problem we have is, simply just not enough beach.
Right.
There's very little beach between the dune and the water's edge. But so that's the way it's set up. The 50% rule only restricts the vendor. It does not restrict the general public.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we know how many beach chairs are going out on the beach every day, and we would know how many are going to be at every boardwalk, then we can set the map up accordingly. And if there's somebody in the way, and there's still, then it's going to be 3 feet off, but there's still going to be the second chair, the second umbrella, the third umbrella.
I'm just wanting to anticipate for you guys, you're going to get sucked into the conflicts because
I mean, we've already been
I used to
part
do
of a
beach
lot.
chairs, so I know that part of the business, but my lifeguards get sucked into it
Right.
every day in the public accesses,
Right.
where we have to
I'll add
referee.
this. We've met with the Beachy a couple of times. They've come to us explaining their concept. And we've walked away from the meetings with the understanding that concept would work marvelously on a beach like a resort community that has control of that beach and control of that particular vendor. On a public beach where you have kind of a free-for-all right now for vendors to come down, any vendor can come down and set up. It makes it a little bit more problematic. We discussed that. So, moving forward through this year, we experienced the same issues that we've had in the past, ghost sets, the violation of the 50% rule. We have a unique relationship on some of our public beaches with paragraph D8, which gives the upland property owner the ability to say yea or nay to vending on that beach. So where we set up our vendor zones, on those beaches where you have Gulf front private ownership, landward of the beach. First year, we had to relocate a lot of vendor zones, and this year we also had to relocate a lot of vendor zones. And sometimes they don't get relocated, sometimes they just go away. So until that issue is resolved, it's going to be problematic to do it on public beaches that are seaward of private property. At our regional beach accesses, where we are the upland landowner, we don't have that issue. And the 50% zone has worked pretty good. So if there is a way that the county, or if the county would make a decision on how they would like to manage vendors on the public beaches at our regional beach accesses, the beachy system, would work just like it does at resort communities. As you have one or two, maybe three vendors that have a particular area that they have purchased the rights to vend on. Because we have a couple of different models that we proposed in the past years of how we would manage a vendor on a beach. It could be as simple as a land lease, where we take the highest bidder, who wants to pay the most money for the rights to vend on that beach. We actually do a request for services where we hire them to vend for Walton County. In that case, Walton County drags the revenue, we pay the vendor for the service, and everybody works that way. In those cases, you could have one or two vendors at a regional beach access depending on its size. As we know, Blue Mountain Beach, Van Ness Butler aren't that big of regional beach accesses. Gulfview Heights, all these are less, 100 feet or less. And when you divide them into 50% zones, they then become, even more narrow. With a beach management vendor plan, we would probably do away with the 50% vendor zone in favor of them following standards of what we lay out where they could vend. In other words, we wouldn't allow them to set up chairs all the way across the beach like they do, say, in seaside, like seaside vendors do. We would have to, they'd have to allow some area for the general public that does not wish to rent. As we move forward through time, the idea of visiting the beach might change. It might go more towards, I'm gonna rent a chair, I'm not gonna bring my own gear. So all those dynamics will play out over the next couple of years on a short-term basis and then over a long-term basis. So,
and I would say in every scenario you talk about, Beachy's technology is part of the solution.
Yeah.
If you go to a split where the county's going to take a piece of the revenue on every access, which is the standard for pretty much every county outside of the Panhandle of Florida, you're not going to manage that on an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
We've got a system that does that.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to this free-for-all that you've got 190 beach chair vendors on 30A or something crazy like that, we have a system for that too. It's not going to be a perfect system, but there isn't ever going to be a perfect system for that. There's no way to do it. We're trying to take baby steps to kind of adopt some sort of technology on the beach, because right now there isn't any at all.
And this doesn't have to come across as beachy app. It can come across as South Walton.
Yeah, everything would be branded for South Walton. We're not going to brand beachy and have, it would all be South Walton stuff. It wouldn't have any of our logos on it.
Which is a way for you guys to get a lot of eyeballs on other things that you may want to get eyeballs on as well. We would develop what's called the API key access to this particular functionality of it. But if you had a South Walton app, which you may already, this would be running as almost just the functionality inside of it. Just our API would run this portion of it.
Where are y'all at in Walton County right now?
We have, where are we going?
We've got some beaches in Miramar Beach. We can, yeah, I mean, Sandestin.
You guys are in Sandestin?
So we start with them next beach season. So Jerry and Jason, Jason Drum, is who I worked for forever. That was actually, when I came with the idea, I was staying in West Bend and Sandestin. I was like, this is crazy. So yeah, and then at Amalfi, which is down on Old Highway 98. Then we've got a bunch of places in Okaloosa County. We have 100% coverage in Pensacola Beach, Escambia County. Then we're in Pinellas County, we're in Dade County. We're steadily growing. But this was kind of the next step for us, was getting involved at the municipality level and trying to bring the convenience of staying at a resort to public beach accesses, not only for vacationers, but for your residents too.
So anyway, when I ask for a vote today, what I'd like to do is, just spend some time, check out their website. You got any questions, email them directly.
What's your take on it, Brian? 'Cause you've been through a couple of presentations, right?
Yeah, I think, like I said, once again,
Waiting on the BCC as far as with that.
right, there's some things that have to change with how we manage the vendors on the beach for this to really work effectively. David Vaughn brought up the key thing, is how do you do a standardized setup when you don't have the ability to do that because you're not controlling all the vendors. So, like I said, I don't know what the BCC is going to do this year. They've made some other changes on how we manage the beach. When I say we, beach operations, we've got new code enforcement officers coming. We got more beach ambassadors coming. We have beach vendor, postseason beach vendor meeting this afternoon at 3 p.m. I highly encourage everybody to come. And we have another one next Monday, next Tuesday at 9 a.m. And then we also have another public workshop on the 21st at 5 or 5:30. So with that, we'll take input from all those. We'll take our activity report from this year and put it all together and come up with recommendations to the BCC, or actually to the TDC first, of how we think things can be done better. And it'll work its way through TDC and then through the BCC. And if you were around last year, there weren't any changes made last year. We offered up a few recommendations, but they decided that the changes that we made at the first of 2015 were appropriate, so we didn't have any changes for 2016.
What time's that public workshop on the 21st?
What time is it? It's either 5 or 5:30. But if you go to our website, and the county's website, it's listed on there.
Quick question, Mr. Brown. When these changes to potential vending happen, do they go through this committee, or is that going to be something that just goes through the y'all's beach operations offices?
We do it through the first, the vendor meeting. So because of the time schedule, I don't typically run it through this committee. I like to talk about it prior to. So, a couple of meetings ago, I know we missed a couple of meetings, we didn't have a quorum on one, we canceled one. But throughout the year, we as a committee ought to be thinking about what we feel are appropriate changes, bringing them up as new business, discussing them as old business, and so that by the end of the year, when I say the end of the year, the end of the vending season, which I consider, September, mid-September, late September, we've already hashed it out. Since it's been a hot topic for the past 3 years, and the BCC makes the ultimate decision on it, 2015, we got there late. We didn't make any decisions until May. Last year, we were before the BCC in January, and they didn't make any decisions. They didn't feel like they needed to. This year, we'll be in front of them. I wanted to get in front of them before the end of the year, while the season was still fresh, and go ahead and recommend some changes. They'll be very similar, I think. Once again, we got to get input. So these two meetings we're having for postseason vendor meetings, they're not just for the vendor, they're for the general public as well. And then we do have one that is just strictly open, forum, public workshop. Anybody can get up and speak, however they want to speak. We'll take all that information and come up with recommendations. So, Alice, appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Is it appropriate for me to ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I've just been observing. In the mapping of what you're offering, which sounds very specific and clear, and your customer pre-books that spot in the front, that's the front row seat by the beach, and then a tourist comes and places their own personal chair directly in front of that person's spot, which would cause, I would imagine, a disappointment and aggravation. And I just observed this in July, and it made a verbal altercation, which almost created a physical altercation. I'm just curious how that's handled, or are there any rules, or has that been decided? Who has the right to be there?
Yeah.
And how would that work if they're paying and booking and then it's...
Sure.
And
So we
also-
can't, as BG, make any rules. We obviously follow the county's rules, but the solution that we've used in the past for that is instead of they are going to get this specific spot, you can do more of a general admission to the zone. So maybe if there's room for 15 front row spots on this particular area, let's sell a general admission, let's guarantee 8 of them or 12 of them, whatever may be the standard, that they're going to get front row and from a delivery vendor, and however they decide which delivery vendor gets that. And then that way there's the built-in cushion of, if someone else is in this area, whatever. But the front row being more of on the app, it looks like a zone as opposed to a specific spot. That way you can build in some cushion for
But
those.
there's no way to keep someone from coming and sitting in front of you.
Right.
Never gonna happen.
And I mean, that is a problem that exists not only on public beaches, but also in some of the private beaches as well. I mean, right down the street where we were this morning, there's, a beach that's run by a great family that we partnered with, and they have 16-year-old kids who are getting yelled at by families who want to put the tent up in front of the chairs, but they've got paying customers. And then there is that battle that I think everyone here has dealt with for years. There's just not an easy solution to that besides giving some regulations that may be able to help both parties know what's going on.
And when the meeting is over, if you could put me in touch with the appropriate person, I'm interested in cleaning up a certain area and want to volunteer or connect with what it would take.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, Phil, I appreciate it.
Sir?
Like I said, y'all, look it over, check, send in any questions you got.
Yeah, download our app, it's available on iTunes and Android. You can see all the places that we're available. I was just looking through it, I think we've got probably 20 locations in Walton County currently there, with probably, I don't know how many more coming on for next year, but, we'll be at every major resort in Walton County, probably with the exception of Seaside, just because Larry Neville doesn't, he doesn't understand technology, But yeah, so you can check it out and love your feedback.
Do you track any vendor performance?
Oh yeah, I think that's a big part of our sales proposition to the county is we know, there's been beach guys just in the last year, getting arrested for, dealing coke on the beach, and, it's like, well, that guy shouldn't be able to, he's gonna be in jail, but, it's like, well, he's still out there serving customers, or, his company's still out there serving customers, and that's just, that's not a good representation of Walton County. And then you have guys like John Wellborn and Field Williams that live off 30A, or Rank here, who are paying, their sales tax, are remitting their sales tax, they have workman's comp, they're doing this all the right way, versus these other guys, and their bikes are $5, your bikes are $30, because he is paying, what he's supposed to be paying. So we definitely track all of that.
I've got one more fly question for you. So let's say that the county does adopt the platform for, say, and it comes up, we can get through all the political mess of breaking out the vendors' rules for the public beach accesses. And then do you have to what happens when you have holdout vendors or vendors who are doing the bare minimums per county standard and don't buy in? And then you get the turf battles between those who do buy in and those who don't. Like what kind of buy-in?
As much as as much as we can cater the technology to fit inside your rules, it's much easier than us having to go get high dollar lobbyists and try and change the rules. Obviously, that's not the business we're in. So whatever the rules are, the idea for us is that this is something that needs to be adopted by all vendors in order for it to be level playing field. It's not as simple as a bunch of people sitting in a room and saying, hey vendors, now you have to use this, and we're aware of that. But it is one of the only ways that you can have any sort of data capture, any sort of idea as to where this transaction is going, how it's flowing through the process, and how it's been executed. We do, most of this platform was designed by beach vendors for beach vendors. It's a very friendly platform for them. The growth we've had towards resorts and different delivery vendors has been accidental. I mean, it's just been people clawing, wanting it. So I don't feel like it's going to be too hard for the vendors to see the value of it. The ones that really don't want it are the ones who really don't want it for their own reasons. So we'll just leave it.
One vendor on 30A, just to give you an idea, and you guys probably may even just guess who this is, but said, guys, I'm going to make $625,000 this year selling beach chairs. I don't plan on paying taxes on any of that money. So why would I do this? And we're just sitting there like, we're running a $50,000 watch, and you just told me you don't plan on paying taxes. Like, it's really hard for me not to punch this guy in the face. You know what I mean? Because we're all here paying our taxes, and I don't make nearly that kind of money. So we know it's an issue. We know what's going on. I think everyone here knows that it's going on, and so that's
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it very much.
Moving on, last item under new business, the 2016 International Coastal Cleanup.
That's me, or us, I should say. I'm with the Friends of South Walton Sea Turtles, and we promote sea turtle conservation through awareness and education. And one of the many programs we do are monthly beach cleanups, March through October. And our cleanup in September coincides with International Coastal Cleanup Day, so we're coordinating that effort here in the county. In front of you is the flyer for this year. You can see there are 2 different times throughout the day that we're doing cleanups. From 9 to 11, we have 5 locations on the Gulf and 1 location on the north side of the bay that Choctawhatchee Basin Alliance is coordinating. And then from 2 to 4, we have the state park locations, and the one at Grady Beach State Park is a part of the Coastal Dune Lake Day event that the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board has that day. So Topsail Hill Preserve State Park decided to pick that same time so the morning people can make a day of it and go and help in the afternoons at those locations. So we're, our programs, we do them because it gives people an opportunity to make a change and learn about ways they can protect the beach. And even with the great crews that clean up every day, there's always something everyone can do on their own, and that's one of the reasons why we do that programming. And this event itself is supported with the t-shirts that the volunteers will get, the TDC are providing, and the flyer you see in front of you is designed by them and that type of thing. So if anybody has any questions, or if you want to volunteer, if your business has a team of people that volunteer monthly for different projects, we'd love to have you. Our contact information's on that flyer. That was it. Short and sweet.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right, moving on to old business now. We don't have any listed here, but last meeting you asked us to look at the beach ordinance and the beach accesses. You have any comments on that?
Yep.
So anybody have any comments? Has anybody read the ordinance or looked at any of the beach accesses?
I look at my beach access. My neighbors are getting upset. It's a peculiar beach access. It's one that is on the west end of Allen Loop, at the very end of Allen Loop, crosses 30A, and there's a place to park. Really not cars, but golf carts.
Yes, sir.
And it's been a place where you could just park 50 golf carts there if you wanted to. And we understand that there's a house back, in fact, the college is the original owner of all the property around there, that is landlocked, and he has to get access to his house, he has to go through the beach access parking lot, so to speak. But the homeowner, that homeowner actually is the one that put up the no parking signs.
No, actually, we did.
Some of them. He put up 2 or 3 of them.
Okay.
And then the sheriff sent somebody down there, and they're different people. And recently there was a sheriff that didn't really want to do that day. He got everybody upset. Said, okay, all these people that do golf carts, you know, I'm going to give you a ticket. It's a legal golf cart, and I'm going to tow off all these golf carts that aren't legal. It's real ugly to everybody on the beach there.
Okay.
The homeowners on Allen Blue really usually use them. But anyway, there's plenty of parking there that leave access to the house. There's plenty of places that we would just mark. You put paint on the gravel or something to designate places. We got bicycle racks, you know,
Right.
designate places to put these golf carts and low-speed vehicles that a lot of people on Allen Loop that park there. But it seems like unless there's, you know, some of these no parking signs, and the fellow that owns the house back there, he parks there anyway. The judge, and I took the parking class when I was on the posse. The judge in Phoenix Springs will not uphold any ticket that's given there.
Right.
Because you can't discriminate against, if you let the guy that lives back there park there, you can't say, I can't park there.
Here's the uniqueness of that access, okay? It's on one of the 33-foot former government lot easements. Former government lot easements. The easements still exist. We have several of our beach accesses on these easements. Part of the agreement is, and it was developed many years ago, when we developed that access, that we would provide parking for that house that's Gulf front, okay? And those are the red no parking signs you see now where it says parking for address, whatever the guy's address is. And then we had an emergency vehicle parking, and then there was some parking that was really not labeled golf cart parking, but it was just de facto golf cart parking. So what we did is we put up some signs that are to aid that fellow in preserving his parking rights that he has. And then we also put up some signs, I'm not sure if they said golf cart parking or if they just said parking area, but they should have been just north of the emergency parking area that is a brick paver, concrete paver thing. So that's relationship there. You know,
It can be improved, and there can be more places added closer down 38.
it could be.
Add some sand and fix it up a little bit. And part of your ongoing maintenance of the area, I think we can do that.
We have
the sheriff straightened out about
the sheriff's not
how
going to.
people ought to be treated.
Well, that's a sheriff's issue, you know.
I think we might hear about it here.
You know, one thing you got to understand is that those agencies get bombarded with people calling to enforce rules, not because they're just trying to get rules enforced, but so they'll benefit from that rule being enforced. Okay, understand what I'm saying? And even though there shouldn't be any preference on what rules the sheriff wants to enforce, that's the reality of it. Okay, and so without proper signage, you know, they have signage that has, in order to enforce no parking, it has to have statute number, stuff like that. And since the area we're trying to preserve for that fella, because he has written agreement from the TDC when they built that access, that he would have parking there, that's why there's not your typical no parking sign. And so I'm not sure, why the judge or how the judge developed that, but I can understand how he'd say, I'm not going to enforce, no parking against this fella and, not enforce against that fella. If there's no
That's
proper.
not American, that's.
Right, so, but the only other thing to do would be for us to, put in a gate and a fence there for that fella to preserve his parking area, and then we wouldn't have any no parking signs or parking only signs. But we'll look and see if we got some more room for golf carts. Another problem we do have there is.
But then before the step.
Yeah, yep.
It's just, there's this much of a drop off where the sand is settled.
Right.
And a bunch of,
Yeah. Another problem we have there is people parking in that little grassy median between the bike path and the edge of the road. And so I'm looking at some landscaping, hardscaping and all that, because what we get is a sight triangle problem. You have basically a four-way intersection right there, and once that gets all blocked up, you can't see. So we're trying to get it where it's beautified, what I call it, as well as hardscape, landscape, to keep people from parking where they're not supposed to be parking.
and the crosswalks in the wrong place.
I know, it's terrible right there.
It's only been getting hurt.
It is, we're looking at all that. Part of our other program we're doing is our multi-use path repair replacement. We're converting all of our 8-foot path to 10-foot wide, have a strike down the middle. Part of that is realignment, trying to get all of it on one side of the road where possible. If you know that area, switch backs a couple times. And with that will also be joint work with Public Works to get in the crosswalks in the appropriate area, as well as, signage, and possibly some signalization for crosswalks where it's, high density cars.
Ron, that was something Lake Oak Golf Place, speaking of crosswalks where you got, how they put up the warning, that would be maybe, I've had people come to me as far as a different crosswalk, especially if you're talking about Allen Loop where it goes back and forth, the possibility of us putting those up.
Good possibility.
Yeah.
What, I meet with Public Works on a quarterly basis for projects that we're doing together or projects that we should be coordinating on. One of them is crosswalks. They resurfaced 30A East 395, they put in more crosswalks in them, they put too close together. But since they connect our bike paths and beach accesses, we work pretty close on that. But one of the areas, like I say, this year we're doing watercolor to 283 with the Western Lake Bridge project, and then we're doing from 283 to 83. So all that will be 10-foot wide bike path. Fiscal year 17 will be from 83 to 393, and then 18 will be, right. And with that, we hope to get, like I say, as much realignment on one side. It's not to say that there won't be paths on both sides of the road, but one of them will be a multi-use path, and one of them will be a pedestrian sidewalk, so to speak.
We can do to put up hazard signs where the bikes are constantly crossing back around Manning and stuff.
Yeah, there's got to be,
advantageous for us to do something that's proactive and tell them waiting somebody to hit.
right. And those little signs that Public Works is putting up at the crosswalks seem to be, sort of effective. I've experienced, people stopping more than they would with just the typical pedestrian has right-of-way sign on the side of the road. Those people don't tend to see those as good as they see that one in the middle. So anyway, appreciate you bringing that up.
There's not, and going east from that beach access to the next beach access and onto that beach.
You talking about what we call, you talking about?
It's
Causeway,
down.
yeah. Lake Causeway Beach
What's
access.
wrong with that? I hear all kind of stuff in neighborhood get-togethers about some crazy man on the beach.
Yeah.
There's a fellow that lives in Vizcaya, and they own the beach out in front of them. They have deed to the main water line, and they're exercising their private property rights. Part of the increase in activity you've seen is because now people are I wouldn't say provoking, but or maybe going out of their way to cause some trouble. Best thing I would recommend, just give the guy a little bit of room, give him some peace, and he'll probably back off. But right now, it's gotten pretty heated. There was a recent video on the social media websites that, is not a good thing, just, for humankind, I'll say, much less, for South Walton beaches, but.
Part of that easement by prescriptive easement. I mean, come on, people have been using the beach forever, from the dune line down. I mean, you only need 7 years.
Yeah, the county is exploring, all those different options. Right now, they have a legal team working on it, and
I mean, I think it'd be hard for the state to pursue any trespassing charges on the beach, regardless of any signage or what the sheriff says,
I don't think it's the issue of the sheriff forcing trespassing issues. I think it's the issues of the private property owners creating, or trying to preserve their private property rights. With the posts and ropes and fences, which we changed ordinance. We've actually got really good compliance on that now. I don't know if you've been down the beach, but just with changing the ordinance, sending out the initial letter, we got about 50% compliance. Since then, we've had about 28 cases that we gained compliance after meeting with the property owner, and then the rest of them are in process. They've either decided to take a ticket. We have to give them proper notice, and since we operate our beach code enforcement under Florida Statute 162, Chapter 2, which is the instant citation process, where if it's a issue of irreversible or irreparable damage, we're able to cite them versus the traditional code enforcement way of, notice, 30-day notice to cure. If they don't cure, we send them to the code board. This way, we do have to give them notice, and we have to give them a certain amount of time to cure. Depending on the magnitude of the fencing, that can be as little as 30 minutes or as 48 hours is what we've set up. And some of them have just decided to take a ticket. And so we have some people that have taken 1 or 2 tickets. They escalated $100 a piece. And my assumption is when they get to 500, they'll probably contest it. Right now, some people are trying to buy time, waiting to see what these 2 lawsuits are going to happen. And I imagine there'll be a time when, we've gotten almost, 90% or more compliance, and those last people will be the ones that hold out and either pay the tickets or contest them in court. It might be decided in civil court up here in Definian. Right now, we've had a few people that said they were going to contest them, but they actually went and paid the ticket. So, I don't know, like I said, I think people are just really trying to buy time. But, this will all be decided here in the next, 1 to 3 to 5 years. Can't continue on the path we're on. And so it'll either be decided in the court of law, or there'll be some sort of compromise between Gulf Front property owners and the county.
I'm sure Theriak's working on the consent of use thing for the county now. Do we have a date of when he's going to be giving a presentation to the BCC? Or certainly that would be made public in a large room.
Yeah, definitely will be.
Yeah.
But they didn't set a timeline on it. The instructions were to research it and come back with recommendations on what is the best way to go. So.
I hope nobody gets hurt.
I hope not too, and that's why I said, I highly recommend you give the guy some room. He's also set his course, and there's no disputing that this guy has title to the main high water line. And
Because the condo, in condominium, everybody is in his condo, right?
well, it's a subdivision of individual single-family dwellings.
Oh.
And they do collectively own the portion of the property in front of, Seaward of their gated neighborhood. But, part of their development order included 2 easements, one on the west side, which we've already developed, and one on the west side we've already developed, and one on the east side that we're in the process of developing right now. So, before too long, there'll be another beach access.
Be another one for the cause more conflict.
Do what?
There'll be another beach access for more conflict.
Brian, do you guys have a database of the GIS data
of those ownerships of who owns that particular beaches?
County tax information,
Is there, the tax information has that inside?
it's on the,
If you go to the private appraiser's website, it does have it's all GIS ARC.
And it tells you if the county owns it, if the state owns it, if the homeowner owns it.
You can, they have a GIS department, you can contact them and they'll send you a,
And that'll cover the beaches ownership.
so
Yeah.
pay your taxes, how much you do. Taxes are outrageous, but
A lot of information off the property appraiser's website, which you also tie in GIS, people, they have it all delineated as well. And that's where the property appraiser's information comes from GIS.
The lady over there at GIS, she's really helpful.
Okay.
All right, John?
There was a item I saw in the beach ordinance, that it was a little surprising to me, that if I'm out fishing, pompano fishing on the beach, and one of the beachgoers doesn't like it, they go get a deputy to have him removed.
There is a section in the thing that says if fishing is a safety hazard, it's...
I mean, I can see somebody shark fishing or something,
Yeah.
chumming up the water, but, if I'm out there pompano fishing, and somebody, deputy comes and asks me to leave, I'm probably gonna tell them no. Usually those
They
issues...
can walk out there, so you can.
Yeah, usually those issues resolve themselves,
Yeah.
as in it just gets hard to fish when there's a bunch of people around.
Yeah, I do it early in the morning and late in the evening.
So, I think the, enforcement action on that particular section of ordinance is probably few and far between.
Okay, so why have it?
what are we doing to our community? That may come up in the consent of use, because fishing was an activity that it's not just the right to walk across but the right for the public to go out there and fish.
Well, I fish in front of Huckabee house all the time.
Yeah.
And he comes down and talks, he's not,
The reason it came up is because, like everything else on our beach, people come here to visit, they spend a bunch of money, and they're not gonna be told they can't do something. And so you have somebody throwing, a 3-ounce, lead sinker, triangle,
trying to hit some kid in the head with it.
and, like at Graydon Beach, with, 2-aught hook on it. And, what happens is, current catches it, or worse, the line snaps, and, one of the triangle weights would probably pierce your head. And so, they gotta have some sort of mechanism where they can say, hey, no, it's not appropriate to fish here. Why don't you move down the beach to the state park and fish there? I guess it's common sense and logic.
Well, people are swimming, and that's the reason we have fish anyway.
That's right, yeah.
That's not much point.
The gin grass upsets all that anyway.
It does.
So we've had very few of those issues come up this year.
Yeah.
Now that
Like I
you
said,
mention it.
that's
In fact, I can't even think of one that's been brought to my attention.
Yeah.
Couple things about beach access is the nails. And I know we're redoing them all, but they popped up, they're trip hazards, stub your toe on them.
Glad you brought that up. As we transition from a primary garbage collection department, we transition into a repair and maintenance. So we have a couple of techs that will be addressing that very issue on those.
You got them pound them down?
Yeah, we got to pound them down, and all the new repair work will be done with stainless screws, so we don't have that issue. So look for that here in the near future.
Good. The trash can lids are a little shabby.
I'm glad you brought that up. You're talking about our industrial.
Well, I have a piece of plywood that you cut and set on them, the bag.
Okay, you mean our garbage collection station?
Yeah.
You should have noticed that we've changed to our new HDPE lid.
Okay.
Plastic. They're all white, have a nutty surface on one side. And we actually had them printed, screen printed with our logo on top, and then the leave no trace message on the inside. But we're doing some R&D on that. The print wasn't holding up very well. So we're looking at some laser etching. But we do notice that those in the middle do it a little bit quicker. Now we've got most of them changed out. We did it before the season started. We held it off as we were progressing through the summer season, where we're picking up, take all our day to get the garbage off the beach.
Yeah.
You'll notice the rest of those get changed out. Of course, we started with the beach ones. The ones on top side are slowly getting changed out, but nice HDPE plastic. I believe they're 1/4 inch thick, and stainless hinge that
Very
fits our.
nice.
Yeah. Very durable.
When's the new paper bag start
Big
getting?
bag is out.
It is? Okay. I don't know if everybody saw those. They've got a really nice printed message on them. They presented at the TDC meeting last month. They're pretty sweet. Good job.
Even
on
the
that.
trace message on there as well as some other.
Logo.
To me, the big sign, nobody reads that.
Yeah.
But you got several individual signs, like the bags or whatever, or the painted signs, on
Yeah.
the accesses themselves. Those are in your face, people read those,
Yeah.
What about some dog waste collection stations?
Good idea. With our, no, with our public space design charrette, earlier when you were talking about the garbage cans, I thought you were talking about our black garbage cans at our regional beach accesses topside that have the lid on them, like a regular curbside garbage. We're changing all those out. Our design guide should be approved on the 20th by the BCC. So it's been through all these different committees, and hopefully it'll be approved, and then we'll go into buying mode. October 1st is the new fiscal year. I have a bunch of money in there for amenities for our regional beach accesses, so we'll be replacing those garbage cans. And at the same time, that's an excellent idea,
To me, that's the problem with animals. Some people don't pick up the waste. Most of the animal owners are good. They do clean up after.
We'll look into that. We'll find something that matches our new garbage can that will.
But if you got an extra sign with a little bag right there, and they got them in Gold Place, and they got them all over. And that's like, oh yeah, let me grab one of these, it's. You get out on the beach and your dog goes, well, what do I do now,
It's theirs.
Yeah, well, and then the kids making sandcastles, later digging it up, right?
Another thing we're doing is beach etiquette signs. We already have our wayfaring signs that have all the ordinance rules on them, but there are some things that aren't in the ordinance. And so we're going to develop a beach etiquette sign that'll go to our regional beach accesses and eventually to our neighborhood beach accesses. It'll be something that matches the signage we have. I don't want to put a whole bunch of signs everywhere, but we're moving more into what I call resort communities, type amenities with appropriate signage that blends in, but is still effective. The boardwalk boards with our message on it was one of those.
I think that's real effective.
And we're changing it to the routed now, so it's going to be routed with epoxy fill. The graphics, the vinyl graphics wore off, replacing it twice a year. So now they're routed quarter-inch thick, filled up 3/16 with epoxy in color, and so they'll be going to.
We've got some feedback on that, Ed Walling.
Yeah.
You guys did that, and that's good.
That was our prototype. So anyway, so look for our beach access is getting better here the off season, and some of that will carry into next year as well.
One other thing I'd like to kind of mention is we all know that traffic's an issue, and it was horrible this year. It seems like the season isn't 100 days now; it's down to about 85 days or so, but you just can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And we're kind of unique here. We don't have any, hotels, basically, very few. It's mostly houses or condo rentals. And, your typical hotel is, one parking space per one unit, one room, and it comes in one car. Well, these big houses with bunk rooms and stuff, they got a 4-bedroom house, and there's 8, 9, 10 cars there. They got a couple families sharing it. There's a couple kids, off of college, they're coming, and husband and wife, they drive different cars themselves because one gets off work at a different time than the other one, and, so there's just so many vehicles, and it's on the roads, and as soon as we got 4-lane 38, it's just all over. I mean, we lose what everybody's coming here for, the character.
Yeah.
And it's also, there's parking issues. I know watercolors have issues, with parking, and is there any way that maybe the TDC, the tax collectors can actually advertise how many parking spaces that their units provide? And let people know, and even, even preclude any parking in the right of ways, enforce it.
Those are like.
I mean, I know nobody wants to get a ticket on vacation and stuff, but, you know, I was up in Vermont last year watching the leaves, and I parked illegally, got a $25 ticket.
Yeah.
No big deal, you know, I paid, I know I won't park there again, it got my attention.
Yep.
You know? But we need to change people's, you know, just.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're a suburban society, everybody wants to drive their own car, you know, they're not gonna walk anywhere, ride a bike, you know. People here, you know, if we're going from Blue Mountain Beach to Watercolor, we go out at 98 and go around, well, not Watercolor, other side of Seaside, the 395, go out and go around, you just don't wanna drive through.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, a couple of things there you touched on. The first thing of bed test is advertising how many parking spaces they have at their house. I believe that that is a thing that they need to address, and I think it'll get addressed by them because they constantly receive complaints from the people that they rent from them. Okay, so you're a renter, you come down, you rent a big house, it's glorified on a website, you get there, it's not quite what you expect. They hammer the property management agency of, hey, you know, I brought my SUVs, couldn't park them on the thing, had to park them, you know, somewhere else, and, you know, that wasn't right. And so I think that they would correct themselves.
Well, if they knew they only had 3 parking spaces, they wouldn't bring 6 vehicles.
It's just what I'm saying is, because usually the route the renter takes is, I want some money back, okay? I got, you know, some relationship with property management associations, and that's the constant thing that I hear from them is that people are always trying to find a way to get their money back. And so what it does to them is it makes them advertise explicitly what they have. See what I'm saying? They don't leave anything, or they're getting where they don't want to leave anything to, you know, guesswork. So I think that issue will correct itself. The issue of parking on the right of way, right now, the county ordinance is you can park anywhere unless there's a no parking sign. So that was addressed in the.
Well, why can't you park with, I mean, like Blue Mountain Beach, they're all up and down the street, no parking. Why can't you park in those right of ways? If you park in other right of ways, like Rolling Dunes across 38,
Because there's no parking signs.
but it's still public property.
I agree, but until that's changed, that's how it works. So in the.
So, I mean, how is that right of way different than any other right of way? Just because there's a sign? Can a homeowner put a sign up?
Well, that's how the signs get there. The homeowners request that a sign be put up to keep people from parking either in front of their house or adjacent to their house or down their street or whatever.
I can tell you what other communities have done, just from our perspective. I mean, we're in every community in the whole state. And so there's actually an app that handles parking, or it keeps track of every single parking space. If it's occupied, if it's unoccupied, you can look what spaces are available, what spaces aren't available. It's pretty neat. And also they're building like either huge parking lots or actual parking garages to house all the cars in. And then
We're talking about that here.
No, and that's where and then you have all your vendors at the parking garage. You are on vacation, you park your car, that's where you get your golf cart, you get your bikes, everything, and then you take that to your house instead of taking your 9 Suburbans.
Right. But anyway, so those things are being looked at right now. But the Avcon parking assessment had a recommendation of changing the right-of-way parking standard, basically flip-flopping it. No parking allowed unless there is formalized parking. Okay, so that would solve some of the problem.
Yeah.
The other issue is then you have to then increase your enforcement support, you know, and that takes money.
Well, and the fines can offset that.
Could. Typically, I think if you look at that, you'll see, I mean, unless you just really boost your fines up, like you got $25.
Yeah, we don't want to penalize them too much.
Well, that's another thing too. So you got the county balances that, and then what y'all already know about, where we've purchased some property on 283. It'll initially be some surface parking area, and we're looking at tying in some public transit to it. Eventually, it will be a elevated parking deck, hopefully. And of course, this also has to go through public scrutiny to see what the public actually wants. We've also purchased some land down in Dune Island for regional beach access, offer more parking there. And I'm pretty confident that we'll build on the Avcon parking study and start taking in the rest of the areas. You know, that parking study we took 8 of the areas they identified. They identified about, I want to say 14 or 16 areas. Public Works prioritized which ones would be the most beneficial. And then those are the ones that are being built. So there's roughly 260 spaces that'll be added on 30A, and they'll be done by March of next year.
We got a lot of daily, vacationers that come down from Alabama or whatever. We do need a lot of surface parking for them. But there's, what I'm talking more about the weekly vacationers and stuff is we need somehow to, like you were saying, change their mindset a little bit and bring fewer cars with them down here. Because, I mean, we're going to have a moratorium on development. There's already proportionate fair share. And, I mean, anybody wants some little mom and pop store or something, they're going to have to pay, potentially millions of dollars in impact fees, because of the 100 or 85 days of the vacationers really govern everything.
Well, I think the BCC is making that move.
Well, but the problem, one of the things that they've been investigating is increasing the number of parking spaces at a house, where they don't have a parking issue. Well, that just promotes them to bring more vehicles down and increase the traffic.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, we're like Destin, they have maximum parking. They don't, here we have minimum parking. There, they don't want you can't have more than a certain amount. And they give you incentives to reduce it up to 20%. Because they want people to take alternative transportation.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But you have to have that alternative transportation available.
Well, we've got the trolley.
Well,
and we do have the bike path, which, so many people use. You got a couple bikes at a house. How many people, living or vacation in the Blue Mountain Beach area drive to the Blue Mountain Creamery? They can walk with the kids and the family down there,
So anyway, I think the county is seeing, what needs to be done as far as parking. We're exploring some public transit, systems. You're right, Phil does have one that is on a portion of 38. He's slowly making it work, it's not something that just happens, overnight or over a 2 or 3 year period. So I think we finally started looking in that direction. And with the purchase of this parking area, we're looking for more parking areas. Actively exploring some other solutions that are private, public-private partnerships. Where they build it, they maintain it, they run it. Part of it also means now paying for parking. And as you know, a lot of
that's the thing. You go to a city, anywhere. If you're going to stay downtown, you're going to pay $20 a day, at least to park.
Right, but see, that's a cultural change that has to happen. It's the same thing right now.
That's what I'm saying. We need to ease into that because it's just getting more and more congested, and we're just going to have to improve the roads, and that's going to kill the character of the community.
I agree. I think we're easing into it, and I think that the different things that are happening within different groups are going to preserve what they can of the community.
Do you think the TDC could take the lead in that? I
think we just spent $15 million on property. So
that's to provide more parking spaces to bring more cars.
But it's going on that idea of centralized parking.
Yeah.
Like for that day tripper from North Walton County, from Alabama, that comes down, and instead of them, parking in the weeds at Edward Lane.
I understand we need parking for them, but like I'm saying, it's what I'm saying is to bring in, 8 or 10 cars to the 4-bedroom house.
County commission, we're not going to see
How do
Well, that's
the
development, or any reduction in development, or any new requirements for developers.
Well, so many municipalities have gone with maximum requirements. Walton County is just so far behind, still requiring the minimum and actually discussing increasing those minimums and stuff. And that just increases the urban sprawl, with more traffic, of course, we're going to have to, increase the roads, we're going to have to widen them, make them bigger, make them carry more traffic, but it also comes, more pollution, more air pollution with more vehicles, more accidents, there's just so many, it's changing the community drastically. And I don't think that anybody is, we know it's a problem, but nobody's doing anything to really.
Like I say, I think that it takes a cultural change in people, but to get that cultural change, you have to provide the alternate. And I think, right now, that the alternate that we're looking at is, if you're going to bring all your cars, park them and leave them here. There, if you're coming for the day, park them over here, get on mass transit, public transit, go east and west, go to the beach, have dinner, get back to your vehicle, head back to the house. If you're coming here for the week, park it in the parking spaces provided at your place and take, the multi-use path, the public transit, to your east and west destinations.
If they have the cars here though, or the one car at the house, they're gonna run up to the parking garage where everybody can get their car and go. One guy's going to play golf, the wife's going to the shop at the mall, the kids are going to the beach.
Well, like I say, if you're at your house, another thing is, as we get second, third, fourth tier rental property, north of 38, those people, I can see, if you had a regular public transit, okay, say you're in Seagrove and you want to go down to Rosemary Beach, shop and have lunch, I could conceivably see somebody get on a trolley or a shuttle, whatever you want to call it, that was regular. See, that's the other thing, you see, if you go to urban areas, the metro is there when it says it's going to be there, and it's there very frequently. And I don't know if you've been there, but I've been in Atlanta, and I'm like, all right, guys, we got to be at 11:30. We got to be at the station. Otherwise, we got to get a cab back and done with. And but it's got to be regular. It's got to be consistent. But I think people will adapt to it. Because right now, how frustrated do you get when you want to go somewhere? Would you ride it? Would you ride a transit? Where do you live?
I live over by Mac Bayou Road. I spent a lot of time in Blue Mountain Beach.
Yeah. So I could, consider to see, if we had some more centralized parking, and what I'd like to see is what I call central west, central, and central east parking areas. All right, central would be the 283 property we bought. Pretty large, that'd kind of be the central hub, and then you got shuttles that make the loop each way. Okay, and so I think 20 minutes is what most people would like to have. If it's 30 minutes, I think that people could plan around that. And so if that was the case, would you struggle to find a place to park at, anywhere in Blue Mountain Beach to go to any of those establishments? If you knew you could park, say, in an area near Van Ness Butler, say we had a large central parking area, came from your house on Mac Bayou, whip in there, park, pay $5, and you got a shuttle ride, and you can get anywhere you want on 38 in 30-minute increments. I think people would do that. I think we would change our culture of, I'm going to drive my car to Rosemary from Seaside, or I'm going to drive from Gulf Place to Seaside. And I think what's going to change that is that what we're experiencing right now is it's just, it takes 20 minutes. When I get there, I can't find a dang parking place. So I shove it up in the weeds. That's the other thing I want to change is, putting that landscape in there at Edwall Lane, and look at the difference between that little median right there and just east of it, in front of Sunrise neighborhood. If we could do that all the way down, just think how much better our community would look. But we also have to offset that parking. All good points, John.
How successful was the Topsail State Park parking
I haven't got results back, but I'll inquire and I'll send it out to you. I believe it was either, last year was very successful for the first month, and then for some reason it tapered off, and we didn't figure out why, but I'll inquire with our admin department and I'll send it out to you via email. Okay.
All right, anybody else have any comments? Any public comments?
I have a question. What does it take for the tractor that cleans the beach to be able to do that? If it's going to all be where it's public, that people can come anywhere for access? Because what I find is syringes dirty diapers, and I clean wherever I'm walking, just as a tourist and a part-time resident, hope to be a full-time resident. I bring a bag and clean that. And then I'm told, well, the tractor rides down here, but they only clean for this and they don't clean for that. But if the tourists come publicly and leave things, not everyone is minded to do that, because I speak to the tourists and I say, what would help you pick this up? Or they'll see me picking it up and they say, oh, do you get paid to do that? And I said, no, I'm just a concerned citizen and I want everyone to enjoy this treasure. And it's from glass bottles, which is not supposed to be there, to the plastic bottles, to literally syringes. I took pictures of that, and dirty diapers at water edge. They do not think to bring plastic bags, so I asked them, well, what would help you? I try to be very personable to them and just try to find win-win situations. One thing that was recommended is colored trash bags, beach-colored trash bags at the entrances, because a lot of them just don't think to do that. Trash cans are too far away, or they just drop their trash there.
That's a good idea.
So,
I mean, basically, I offer bags they can take to the water's edge with them, and as they generate garbage, put it in that bag, and then put it in our bags when they leave.
So I just wanted to make that recommendation that came from me talking to tourists.
That's what I
And
did.
to see, what else I could do to promote the
It's kind of like doggy bags, except on a human scale.
And they said, colored.
Please pick it after yourself.
Color will keep our beach beautiful, or leave no trace, whatever, but colored bags, like beach colors, green, or hot.
It's a good idea. Well,
So I just wanted to share that.
As far as the traffic running down the beach, we don't do that in Walton County. Sam Destin does do it. We don't do it on public beaches because of the environmental concerns. Because it removes everything out of the sand. And the environmental approach to it is that the seaweed and other stuff like that actually nourishes the beach. Now, we also don't walk the flat sandy portion of the beach with our beach maintenance people. We just collect the garbage bag station. So the approach of offering bags for personal use there at the water's edge is a great idea, and we'll see how we can implement that, because I think that's wonderful. And but other than that, we kind of rely on the signage we have at our beach accesses, that and the frequency of our garbage collection stations. We have approximately 600 of those brown paper bag stations up and down our beach. We did a consolidation effort last year, and we came to the conclusion that people won't walk in between boardwalks to a garbage collection station. They want them right at the foot. And so we're now putting more of them back out. We consolidated down. Now we learned that lesson the hard way, but we figured it out. They got to be at the foot of the boardwalk. It's logical. You're on the beach. You gather all your stuff up. You head to the boardwalk. You're not going to walk 20 or 30 feet to the left or right to go to a garbage bag and then go to the boardwalk. So.
What about during red tide, when a lot of times there are a lot of dead fish? I picked up dead fish with rubber gloves, and I picked up dead pelicans, 2 of them, on the beach.
When it gets real bad, our public beach accesses, our big regional beach accesses, we'll send our crews down there to pick them up. But once again,
They nourish the beach too.
they nourish the beach. They nourish the ecosystem. I mean, Walton County has a lot of people that are environmentally sensitive, and they want to keep things as natural as possible. Now, last year when we had really bad fish kills, we did send our crews down to the regional beach accesses to pick up the dead fish. And
I was thinking health concerns with that, and as they were rotting, and stepping on the bones or something.
like I say, it's just the smell gets to be so bad. I can't remember what time, it was early in the year, I believe.
That was in the fall.
It was like
Yeah, it was unusual. Usually it's in the summer.
That's right, yeah.
You get red tide.
August, September.
Yeah.
A lot of the cleanup for that falls on the beach vendors. They'll end up, those guys that put the chairs out. A lot of that cleanup falls on them too.
If you read some of the reviews, are actually pretty funny to read, because they're like, I asked my beach guy to go get the seaweed out of the water, and he refused, and I thought it was ridiculous that he wouldn't go out and clean all the seaweed out of the ocean for me. And like, these people are being dead serious. It's just,
They never right in front of us.
just that area. I mean,
Okay, all right. Well, that's it. Thanks, everybody. Meeting's adjourned.
Appreciate everybody's time.
Hey, David, we've tried to get this GIS data, and I guess we're not talking to the right person. We've been on the county GIS call, and we're asking for information that we're being told doesn't exist, but y'all are saying that it may exist, so.
Well, I know the lady, I think her name's Karen, or
I guess
just maybe sat me through adjusting the address.
Keep it, yeah, they-